Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Friday, October the 10th. Beautiful day here in the hub city and the rest of Acadiana. A lot of clear skies, beautiful temperatures, and really was quite cool out there this morning. And I think it might be a couple of degrees cooler as we go into Saturday. The weekend shaping up nicely. Got two tropical systems that we're watching. We've got Jerry and Karen that are out there. If you hadn't heard of Karen, Karen is a subtropical storm in the northern Atlantic. Jerry is moving away from the Leeward Islands and will continue to struggle. It really has not looked very good here over the last couple of days and doesn't look like it's going to get much stronger. In fact, the National Hurricane Center now backing off on calling this one a hurricane in the future and keeping it as a tropical storm. But again, here at home, beautiful day, 78 degrees. Going to be a perfect weekend for a Festival of Oceanic Creole and anything else that you want to do outdoors over the course of the weekend. Just make sure you got your sunglasses, your sunshade, or your sunscreen, and also a smile on your face for this beautiful weather. 78 degrees. Doesn't get much better than that at lunchtime. Dew point at 64, humidity 62% with a breeze out of the northeast at around 7. And we've got crystal clear blue skies just about everywhere you go in the Acadiana region and up and down the Gulf Coast. A pretty day. A little rough out in the surf and in the offshore waters due to the stronger northerly breezes, but the skies are generally mostly sunny and a beautiful day from Florida all the way back over toward Texas. Now again, the waves and the seas are a little bit kind of rough here over the northern Gulf Coast. A lot of that is thanks to that frontal passage, and with those brisk north winds, we've seen the seas running about 3 to 4 feet in our nearshore waters and a little higher in our far offshore waters. So I wouldn't say it's a great boating day in the Gulf waters themselves, but you might be okay in some of our inland lakes and bays. And as far as the radar, there's nothing to talk about there either. With a lot of clear skies, we're not going to be seeing any rain. So with a ridge of high pressure now in place here at the surface, maybe a reinforcing shot of some drier air that will start to slide back into the region over the course of the weekend. The upper level pattern is pretty solid with a ridge of high pressure and some dry air aloft. So on land, we're really not going to see a whole lot. The flow is going to stay here from the northeast here across much of the Gulf waters. Later on, that could maybe spin something up here over the Florida Straits, but anything that would develop out of that would certainly move off toward the northeast. Everything that we were looking at earlier this week here along the western part of the Bay of Campeche is now shoving its way inland, so no tropical weather expected there. Central America has a bit of a tropical wave kind of rolling on shore of Nicaragua. That's bringing some showers and thunderstorms there. Maybe a bit of a low pressure area over Costa Rica. That's going to go ahead and roll over on the Pacific side and could be a little more action over there. And then what we've got over here is Jerry that's starting to make its way away from the Leeward Islands. Very disorganized system, and it looks like another weak tropical wave probably right here in the central part of the Caribbean Sea. Tropical Atlantic up to the north, kind of off the screen here. We have Subtropical Storm Karen. We kind of pointed that out a little bit yesterday as a low up here over the northern Atlantic, but that getting the name Subtropical Storm Karen doesn't look like it's going to last too long. Jerry, meanwhile, is going to hang on for a few more days, but it is not expected to really strengthen a whole lot, which is good news there. And then we've got several tropical waves that are out over the Atlantic that at this point are not showing any signs of organization, so we don't have to worry too much. So all we got out there is Jerry and Karen, and I did say this yesterday that we weren't expecting anything new to develop in the next 7 days, but Karen kind of popped up, but I'm a little more certain, at least through the weekend, that we're not going to see anything new come up. So let's go ahead and start with Jerry. As Jerry moves away from the islands, the center of circulation is kind of exposed still here, away from some of the massive convection that we have off down toward the southeast. So this is going to continue to move away from the Leeward and Windward Islands and probably remain a tropical storm. Winds are only 50 miles per hour, and last check of the forecast didn't get it much over 60 miles per hour. Remember, this was being called for at least a Category 1 hurricane a couple days ago, but that doesn't seem to be the case now, as it's still battling some pretty rough conditions. It's going to lift a little bit farther to the north, get caught up in the westerlies, and then quickly make its way back out into the open waters of the Atlantic. And at this point, it looks like it's going to be steering clear of Bermuda, but kind of the trends that we were seeing yesterday, that this was not going to be strengthening a whole lot, and really the consensus of models now keep it as a tropical storm, as does the National Hurricane Center's official forecast. Then we've got Subtropical Storm Karen. This was a pretty deep low pressure area that kind of gained some tropical characteristics. And it's way out over the northern part of the Atlantic. And this subtropical storm is not going to last too long. In fact, it's probably going to fizzle out either overnight tonight or sometime early tomorrow and should not be a problem for anyone. And looking ahead at weeks 2 and week 3, things could continue to stay a little bit busy here. Central American gyre looks like it wants to start getting going there across the Central America, although it does appear that the bulk of the action might stay over on the Pacific side. But it's kind of lit up there for the Gulf and the western part of the Caribbean. Central Atlantic stays a little hot there maybe for the middle part of next week as that next tropical wave comes in, and then things really start to shrink back as we get into week 3, as we would expect as we round out the month of October and head into November. Still a little concerned about anything that could possibly develop out here over the Caribbean or move across the Caribbean where those water temperatures are so incredibly high, and there's a tremendous amount of heat content there. And if you're not familiar with the heat potential, that's the deepness of that 80-degree water. So the surface temperatures that we're looking at here are just taking the temperature at the very top of the column of water. The heat potential, though, shows how warm those temperatures are far down below the surface, and the deeper those hot waters go, the more tropical system would have to work with when it comes to the very warm water and the evaporation and allowing some of that warm, moist air to continue to saturate ahead of any tropical weather. And it's a good thing that we don't have anything there right now, because the wind shear is incredibly low there over much of the Caribbean. But you can see all around where Jerry is over here, Jerry's pretty much showing up with a lot of wind shear, and it's going to be running into a lot more up here before it gets shot out toward the northeast fairly quickly, and it'll rip itself apart. So a real quick look at the models on this Friday. There's not a whole lot to talk about on that. The Euro model showing what's left of Jerry kind of moving along, and then low pressure lifting along a front on the east coast will likely become a nor'easter a little bit later on this week. But as we go through time, going into the next 10 days, there's a little bit more moisture that tries to stream there over parts of the southeastern Gulf, but it does look like a front comes in. So once we get out to that 10-day period, we're still looking pretty good here with nothing coming in toward the Gulf waters, which is exactly what we would like to see, especially as we finish off the hurricane season. And looking at the GFS, again, you got a bit of a low there trying to develop along the east coast, along with Jerry cruising its way off toward the northeast. A lot of dry air initially in the Gulf waters, and as we get into the latter part of next week, we do see some moisture trying to flow in. Now, remember the GFS yesterday was trying to spin something up over the central and southern part of the Gulf. That does not look to be very likely now, according to these, but as we go out to that 10-day period, you get to start to see a little bit more of a moisture surge here over the western part of the Gulf, but that might be an advancing front and not anything tropical in nature. Moving on to the Canadian model, and again, you got the low there over the Bahamas or the East Coast sliding northward along with Jerry. Very dry air stays over much of the Gulf waters. You get a little bit of a surge Thursday and Friday of next week of some tropical moisture in the southern part of the Gulf, and that kind of lifts north ahead of a frontal boundary, but you don't really see any tropical activity down. Maybe a little bit of a low there by Belize on day 10, but that's so far out, it's pretty inconclusive. And we'll finally finish with the Icon model just to see if we get any development. The two lows move across the Atlantic. Gulf looks pretty quiet, and it looks like the Pacific stays a little bit more active going out the next 7 days. So fortunately, again, the Gulf waters are looking pretty empty when it comes to tropical conditions here for the next several days. And by the way, we've only had one named storm in the Gulf this time around. That was Barry early in the season down in the southwestern part of the Gulf. And Louisiana, no part of Louisiana has been in a cone yet this year. And let's hope it stays that way. This could be a great hurricane season, something we haven't seen since way back in 2014 and 2015. Of course, season does continue all the way through November 30th. We are about halfway through the month of October here, so the amount of activity is going to be dropping off pretty dramatically here as we go into the early part of November. But usually we like to kind of keep our guard up here at least through Halloween. Today, by the way, is the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Delta that made a beeline beeline right for the Acadiana region. It was a Category 1, but it was enough to knock out the power and knock down some trees and cause a couple of days worth of issues at least. So we can still get those hurricanes and tropical storms during the month of October. And the other reason why we're a little more concerned about October is because tracks and development of tropical systems usually seem to occur a little bit closer to home, giving us less time to prepare. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications. And remember, you can hear my forecasts on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. Tomorrow, I'll be over at WBRZ for the morning show at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. It is homecoming for LSU. If you don't care about the weather, there isn't really a whole lot to talk when it comes to LSU sports that are out there. So if you are interested in college football, or if you're interested in LSU sports, check out that 10 o'clock show on Saturday morning. If you don't catch us on TV, I've got a link below in the description that has a live stream so that you can connect to that. I'll be there on Sunday morning and Monday morning as well if you want to check it out. Also, follow my social media pages on Facebook and X, and thanks to everyone who subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. Hope you all have a great Friday and a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Have a good one.